Hello everyone, my name is Diana Rivas. I am a proud Banana Slug class of 2016 and Ucsc affiliate. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll be talking a little bit about what I majored in, the things that I was involved in, as well as a little bit about admissions. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the text and I will try my best to answer them. So a little bit about myself. When I came into Santa Cruz, I came in as a legal studies major because I wanted to go to law school. When I came into campus, I realized that there was a lot of other avenues and things for me to do. So I took a lot of introductory courses and I ended up majoring in Latin American and Latino studies and sociology with a minor in education. As an undergraduate, I was affiliated with Ucsc College. It is one of our 10 residential colleges that we have on campus. One of the really great things with our residential colleges is that they are not related to majors, which means that you really get an opportunity to interact and meet with a variety of students outside of your major. As a first year, I did live on campus my first, second, and third year. So it was really nice because it allowed me to connect with different types of students as well as to build friendships. I was very involved with our Chicano Latino Resource Center on campus. So I was an intern and then I became a student program coordinator. So it was really nice because I got to do a lot of event planning. I got to connect with other students. I participated in our Cesar Chavez convocation and I actually got to lead that my last year. So it was really great because I was able to meet one of our alumni, whose name is Carmen Perez. She was one of the co-chairs for the Women's March on Washington. Thank you so much. I see 95 people have already joined, so thank you so much for joining me and joining our UCSC campus on our first alumni spotlight. I'm very excited to be one of the first alumni to be doing this, so this is really great. Again, to introduce myself a little bit, my name is Diana Rivas. I graduated in 2016. I majored in Latin American, Latino Studies, and Sociology with a minor in education. And I am from the Central Valley, so if there's anyone from the Central Valley, welcome. And I am a part of Ucsc, which is one of our 10 residential colleges. So before I start answering questions, like I said, feel free to put any questions you have in the chat and I will try my hardest to answer them. I do want to talk a little bit about different resources that we have on campus, as well as what is it that you can do if any of you are first years or continuing students. What is it that you can do to have a successful undergraduate experience? So there are a lot of resources on campus. Some that I do want to highlight is our Educational Opportunity Program. If any of you are first generation college students, EOP is a really great resource that you have on campus that will connect you with a variety of resources such as academic advising. We have peer mentors, as well as a variety of workshops where they connect students, whether you're interested in pursuing graduate school or you're interested in connecting with other students. So it's a really great service that we have on campus. We do also offer tutoring, so I know that one of the questions that was submitted was what type of tutoring services do we offer. So we do have LSS, which is Learning Support Services. So this, they lead a variety of tutoring services. So they offer one-on-one tutoring. They also have what's called MSI, which is basically small group tutoring. So it's really nice because you basically start doing work groups and you get to go and study for your midterms, for different types of exams that you might have coming up. In addition to this, we do also have a writing center on campus. So sometimes students need help with writing, right? So the writing center is a resource that you have on campus and they can help you whether it's crafting your essay or maybe you need help with citations. So when I was an undergrad, I took advantage of all the resources that I could find as a student. So I would always sign up for tutoring. I would go to my professor's office hours. So I do really encourage students to go to your professor's office hours. All of our professors are very welcoming. They all have office hours, and I've heard from faculty that a lot of times they get bored just waiting for students to join them. So this is a really great resource that you have on campus, especially if any of you are interested in doing research. A lot of our faculty members are always looking for students to support them in their research. So this is really good because you get that hands-on experience. I know someone someone asked about how do we apply to EOP. So EOP, the way the university will determine whether you qualify for EOP is that you want to make sure that you select that on your UC application. So in your UC application, it'll ask you whether you are a first generation college student. So you want to make sure that you put yes, and then if you get admitted in the campus, that information will get sent to our EOP office, and then they will connect with you. I do also want to talk about the bridge program. So our EOP does offer what's called a bridge program. So basically you get to move onto campus a few weeks earlier, and you kind of get like a crash course on what is college. When I was an undergrad, I was a part of the EOP bridge program because I was the first in my family to go to college. So this is a really great program where they actually partner you with a upper division, like a junior or a senior, who is also an EOP student. So my mentor when I was an undergrad helped me sign up for tutoring, like I mentioned earlier. He would check in on me every week. He would also go study with me in the library or just see how I was doing. So this is something really great that I encourage students to also apply and consider doing if you do get into UC Santa Cruz. Any tips for seniors applying? So I really want to encourage students, do not wait until the last minute to submit your UC application. So this is really important because you want to make sure that you're filling out everything correctly. You want to make sure that you're adding your accurate grades. The personal insight questions are also a really important part of your application because that's also where we get to know you, right? So I always tell students that the personal insight questions are like an informal conversation. So it's really an opportunity for you to talk about your life, experiences, ambitions, obstacles that you've overcome to get to where you are. So I really want to encourage students in terms of your PIQs. These are some really handy tips. It's a conversation, it's not an essay. So don't focus so much on, making sure that your sentence structure is fine. It's more focused on like the context. So we want to hear about your life experiences, what is it that you want to do, the things that you've done or your dreams, the things that you want to pursue. So please use your personal insight questions as a way to build on your application. I always tell students, don't talk about what's already on your application. So talk about things that aren't on your application, things that you really want us to know. And I always tell students, if it's not on your application, it's like it didn't happen. So you want to make sure that if there's something really important that you want us to know, you include that in your application. And the personal insight questions are a really great place to do that. So someone asked if you can come in as undecided. Yes, you can come in as undecided, and one of the really great benefits with Santa Cruz is that every student does come in as a proposed major, so you have until the end of your second year to declare your major. So you do have a little bit of wiggle room and flexibility if you're still not sure what you want to study, because you have until the end of your second year. Now UC Santa Cruz does have two selective majors, which are computer science and computer engineering. So if any of you are interested in those majors, you do want to make sure that you select them in your application. But for any of the other majors, you can select them on your application or come in as undeclared, and it won't affect our admissions decision. So someone asked, what is the best way to present myself on the UC application? So the best way to present yourself is through your personal insight questions. I think that is really a great opportunity for you to talk about yourself. So I always tell students, for example, if you're part of a student club, we don't just want to hear that you are taking notes or that you're a part of the board, but really say, why are you a part of the board? What is your passion or interest within that organization, and why did you join? And how has that helped you? And then how will that help you once you get into the university? So that's something that we really do like in applications, is like, how can you contribute to our campus? Because we want students that are involved in their school, that are giving back to their community, because that's an example of what you'll do on our campus, and also what can you do after you leave our campus. So how is the Latin American Studies major? So it was honestly the best thing that I found when I came to campus. Like I mentioned earlier, I did come in as a legal studies major because I wanted to go to law school. And then I took introduction to Latin American Latino studies as a GE, and I fell in love with it. It's a combination between Latin American studies and Chicano studies, so you really get a nice broad overview within those two fields. And then our faculty are very passionate about their work. And they really want students to understand not only their research, but also for them to do research themselves. And so it's a really great opportunity. So I really encourage students, if you're interested in LALS, definitely check it out. It is also a minor, so don't feel like you have to major in it. You can also minor in it. And then we do also offer what's called combined majors, which means that you can take courses in 2 different fields, but it's a coursework of 1, right? So it's one of the really great benefits with some of our combined majors. Okay, so what kind of tutoring is available? So we offer different types of tutoring. We have most of our lower division courses, which are courses that students need to take in order to declare their major, offer tutoring. So they offer either what's called LSS, which is Learning Support Services, or they have MSI, which is Modified Supplemental Instruction. So those are a combination of group, like small group tutoring, as well as like one-on-one tutoring. So they have them in our introductory bio courses, chem courses, LALS, and things like that. We also have what's called our writing centers. So if your major focuses heavily on writing, or maybe you're taking a writing course and you don't feel that comfortable with it, you can go to the writing center and they'll connect you with different resources. They'll help you, whether it's crafting your paper or, you know, going over the outline or maybe going over your citation. So that is an example of different resources that we have on campus. Okay, and then I have another question about the PIQs, so extracurriculars. So yes, you can talk about your extracurriculars in your PIQs. What I would recommend is that you pick one that you are very passionate about, that kind of exemplifies like what it is that you want to do, or like why it is that you joined that specific extracurricular, and also talk about, you know, whether you took a leadership role within that organization. Hello everyone, I know I have a few more people joining us today. So I am going to talk a little bit as well about building community on campus, because I think that once you get to campus, it's really important to find your home away from home. And there's a lot of ways to do that. When I was a student, I was really involved in student life. So our residential colleges are a really great way for students to get involved on campus, because it allows you to connect with students without feeling overwhelmed. So all of our residential colleges offer different types of events during welcome week. So they do like block parties, they do competitions against the dorms, movie nights, talent shows. So it's an opportunity for students to connect with other students within their residential college. Aside from that, we have more than 200 student organizations on campus. When I was a student, I was a part of a variety of student clubs on campus. So I was a part of a sorority. So I was a part of Sigma Lambda Gamma National Sorority. And that for me was really important, because I wanted to make sure that I was connecting with other women who were not only empowering me, but also supporting me throughout like my undergraduate journey. I was also into an organization called Los Mexicas, which is a grupo folclórico on campus. So if students are into dancing, if any of you want to dance, that's a really great place where you can, you know, burn calories, but also dance and connect with other students. So we have like hip hop dancing, we have like our Sabrosura Latin dance troupe, if any of you are into that. So it's a really good way for students to be active and connect with other students. The resource centers are also a really great place where you can connect with students. So I did mention it earlier. When I was an undergrad, I was a part of the Chicano Latino Resource Center on campus. So that is one of 6 resource centers that we have on campus, and they all do programming and events for the students that they serve, but are very inclusive of anyone that wants to join. And it's a great opportunity for students to connect with other students who have similar experiences or backgrounds as themselves. So they do different programming. So like our Chicano Latino Resource Center, if any of you are incoming students, will be hosting their annual Bienvenida. It will be virtual, but it's still an opportunity for you to connect and get a sense of what student clubs are available on campus. So I do want to encourage you all to follow them and to participate in the Bienvenida if any of you are interested in that. I think there's a question on if GE classes are similar to GE classes in community colleges. So it'll depend. This is more specific if any of you are interested in kind of going into the transfer route. So we do have students that come in as transfers, which means that they go usually to a California community college for about 2 years and then they transfer in. So usually we do have students who will take courses at their community college. You just want to make sure that the classes that you're taking are UC transferable, because not every class that is offered at a community college will transfer over to the UC campus. So I want to encourage you to check out a website. It's called assist.org, because that's where you'll find, you can put what community college you're interested in and see what classes are transferable to UC Santa Cruz. We do also have students who sometimes will come to UC Santa Cruz and then they'll go home for the summer and they'll take GE courses at a community college. That's completely doable, and a lot of times that saves students money as well as time if you just decide to take courses over the summer at a community college. So I have someone that says, okay, so there is a question about SATs. So they will not be used for admission specifically for our campus. Our campus will be test blind, which means that we will not be looking at SAT exams when evaluating applications. Let's see. So I have a question about the food. So the food is really good. We have 5 different dining halls on campus, and they all kind of offer like similar food. They have really great dining options. So they have like, all of them will have like salad bars. They'll have like pizza, burger bars, like a cereal bar where students get cereal in the morning. But they do also will rotate different types of like themes or like options. All of them do have like vegan and gluten-free options for students as well as vegetarian. And then when I was a student, they actually had something called Meatless Mondays. So every dining hall would rotate every Monday and they would offer only like meatless options for students who are vegan or vegetarian. But in terms of the food, I really enjoyed it. My favorite place to eat was the Ucsc Cafe, because they had really great like chicken tenders. So I definitely encourage y'all to check out Ucsc Cafe when our campus does open again. So there is a question about fitness center. So we do have a fitness center on campus. It's located at Opers. So they have different they have like treadmills, like weights and things like that. And it's really nice because it overlooks the Monterey Bay. So like one side is all glass. So like when you're running, you can literally see the Monterey Bay, which is really nice. They do also offer classes. So they have different workout classes. So you can take like Pilates, yoga. They have swimming classes. They have like soccer conditioning. So really good if students like to work out. They also hire students. So if you're really into fitness, you can actually get a job at the fitness center, which is really nice. And I do encourage students to work on campus if you can. We do offer work study and non-work study jobs. When I was a student, I worked all 4 years of college. And the way that I found my job was actually through our career center on campus. So they have a database online of all on-campus jobs that are hiring. They also help you with your resume, your cover letter. If you have like an interview coming up and you're really nervous, you can actually set up an appointment to with one of our counselors, and they'll do like a mock interview, which is really nice because it kind of helps you get the jitters out before your official interview. They do also have internships, so if you are interested in internships, that's also a really great place where you can find that. So there's a question about what are some things that stand out about our campus compared to others. So personally for me, I think the location is one of a kind. I don't think you'll ever find a campus where you kind of get the best of both worlds, because you're in the middle of the forest. Our campus is 2,000 acres and half of those are redwood trees. So it literally feels like you're walking in the middle of the forest, but then we're 10 minutes away from the beach. So you kind of get the best of both worlds in terms of location. But I think something else that for me when I was a student really stood out to me is just the amount of care that our staff have for our students. Being away from home, I was 4 hours away from home, so I couldn't just drive and go visit my parents. So for me, I realized that I had to figure out like who could I connect with on campus. And if it wasn't for staff and faculty who connected me with different student orgs, different students, I don't think I would have survived campus. So I think our staff really care about our students, and as a staff member myself, I always want to make sure that students come into our campus feeling supported and with like the tools and resources that they need to succeed, right? Because I think our biggest goal is to ensure that our students graduate, and so that's what we're here to do. Let's see. So there's a question about housing. So for our campus, we do offer a variety of housing options. So we offer dorms as well as apartments. So we offer singles, doubles, triples, as well as quads. When I was a student, I actually lived in a quad in my first year because I wanted to, because I wanted to make sure that I could connect with as many people as I could find. So I felt like my roommates were my first go-to friends. So I did live in a quad my first year, and then I lived in a double my second year. And then in my my third year, I lived in a single, and then I moved off campus my last year. For Santa Cruz, we do guarantee your first year of on-campus housing as freshmen, which is really nice. So I do encourage students to take advantage of the housing guarantee. And if you're an EOP student, you actually get an additional year of on-campus housing. So that's also really beneficial for first-gen students. So there's a question about what are the best way to make friends? Is it Greek life a large part of student life? So I think that our residential colleges are a really great place for students to connect with other students, but also student organizations. So like I said, we have more than 200 student organizations that range from academic, ethnic, Greek life, social, anything you can think of. There's a club on campus that you can join. If you're interested in Greek life, about 9% of our student body is a part of Greek life. So it is definitely a growing population on campus. I was in Greek life when I was a student, and it has definitely helped me not only as a student but also after I graduated when it came to networking and looking for jobs and internships after graduation. So I think that they play a really big role in kind of building connections for students. So I do encourage students, if you're interested in getting involved, student organizations are a really great place to do that because it'll connect you with students who have similar interests and experiences as yourself. Okay. So there is a question about making your recommendations for making your application stand out. So like I mentioned earlier, I know a few people have joined, more people have joined, so you really want to make sure that you plan ahead. Do not wait until the last day to submit your UC application. One of the reasons for that is because you want to make sure that you are inputting accurate information, because we do go off of your UC application. You also want to make sure that you are including everything that you think is important and valuable. So the personal insight questions are a really great place for you to kind of build yourself as an applicant, because it's an opportunity for you to talk about your life experiences, ambitions, obstacles that you've overcome to get to where you are. So I always say that it's really kind of like an informal conversation interview. We're not able to interview every student that applies to our campus. So the best way that we get to know a student is through your personal insight questions. So you really want to make sure that when you're filling out your personal insight questions, you're really talking about yourself. A lot of times students will say, oh, like what inspires you? And students say, oh, I'm really inspired by my mom. And that's great, but we want to know, how has your mom inspired you? So you want to provide specific examples, but make sure that those examples are specific to you. Same goes for student clubs. We don't just want to hear that, oh, you were the president of this club, but what have you done as president of that club, right? So we want you to provide us with examples. The application is now open, so for any of you that are currently seniors, you can actually start working on your application now. The application, you can start submitting it between November 1st through the 30th. And like I said, do not wait until November 30th to fill out your application and submit it. If you finish it by November 1st, just submit it. I always tell students that try to submit it before Thanksgiving. That way you can, celebrate the holidays without thinking that, oh, I have to submit my UC application. So make sure that you are submitting that early on so you don't have that added stress. Okay, perfect. And like I said, you want to make sure that you work on your application and the personal insight questions. So I always tell students, make sure that you have teachers look them over, but also, like I said, it's not an essay, so don't worry so much about like your sentence structure and things like that. It's more focused on the content. Yes, so most of our student organizations are meeting during the fall quarter, even if we are online. So if you're interested in student organizations, I know that we have in person, we have what's called the cornucopia, which is it's called a gathering of slugs, which is really cool because our mascot is a banana slugs. So I know that they are in the process of planning something virtual, so definitely follow the Instagram pages because that's where they tend to post most recent information. If any of you are interested in Los Mexicans, definitely check out Bienvenida through El Centro de Ucsc because they are planning a virtual Bienvenida. So that way you'll get to connect with Los Mexicas as well as other student organizations that are for Chicano and Latino students. So UC admissions reps are meeting with students. So like I said, I am an admissions rep, so I work for the Office of Admissions. So not only am I alum, I'm also a staff member. So you can actually go on our admissions website and you can look up admissions representatives by county. So you can look up your county and then you can email whoever your admissions representative is. We are here to help you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email us and we will answer your questions. So another question is, what was my favorite part about going to school at UCSC? So I would say that my favorite part would actually be participating in the UCDC program. If any of you aren't familiar with the UCDC program, the UC system has a program where you actually get to intern in Washington, D.C., which is really nice because you kind of get to connect with other students who are attending other UC campuses. So like my housemates were from UC San Diego, and we were all interning throughout Washington, D.C., and I actually got to intern with 2 different nonprofits. So it was really nice because not only did I get work experience, but I also got networking. I also got I got to build connections with people in DC. So actually through that internship, I was able to participate in a fellowship the following year. And I would have never known about that fellowship or that program had I not done UCDC. But in addition to that, you get to travel. So like you're really close to like New York, Virginia. You're in the heart of the capital, so it's really nice to kind of just explore and learn more about history. So that is definitely one of my favorite parts of being a UCSC student. Okay, perfect. So it says, what do you recommend for students who are going in as undecided? What support is available for students in terms of choosing majors? So we do offer what's called academic advising. So each residential college has a academic advisor. So not only do they help you with your GEs, but they also help you with your 4-year plan. So if you're coming in as undecided, they kind of can provide you with like different introductory courses that sometimes, like for example, I can share my example. So like I came in as a legal studies major and I didn't like it. So when I met with my academic advisor, he kind of said, oh, well, what areas are you interested in doing? So I mentioned that I was interested in like education, maybe doing like the nonprofit field. So then he suggested, oh, maybe you can take introduction to sociology for a GE and see if you like it. I took introduction to sociology as a GE and I loved it. So I majored in sociology, and then I took introduction to LELS as a GE as well, and I ended up liking it. So then my advisor recommended that I do what's called a combined major. So if any of you are undecided, that's okay. And something I always tell students is that your major at the end of the day doesn't determine what it is that you do after you graduate. A lot of times it's what did you do as a student. So whether you did research, whether you worked on campus, whether you were a part of student organizations, or you worked at you're a part of a club. So that's really what gives you the experience that you need for the jobs that you do. So that's something I always tell students, because I think that a lot of times we think that we have to major in something specific when a lot of jobs are very broad. So they really just ask that you have a degree, and what they're going to look at is what experience do you have. So that's definitely something that you want to keep in mind. So there is a question about submitting the application. So although the application is open, but you can't submit it until November 1st. So you can submit your application between November 1st through the 30th, but you can already start working on it if you haven't. So there is a question about our business econ major. So our business economics major is not impacted. It is a popular major, but it's not impacted. So you can select it on your application or come in as undeclared and still pursue it. Okay, let's see. So we still don't know in terms of our fall for now is virtual. We still don't know about our winter and spring, but I really do encourage you to make sure that you're following the Instagrams as well as our website so you can get up-to-date information on what the campus is doing. So in terms of financial aid, we do provide financial aid to about 80% of our students, and that is a combination of scholarships, grants, as well as loans. You really want to make sure, and I cannot stress this enough, that you submit your FAFSA, because that's really how the university will determine how much aid and what type of aid is awarded to a student. So you want to make sure that you submit it between the priority filing period, so it starts October 1st. So make sure you submit it and that you add all the schools that you're considering on applying to, because that information gets sent to our Office of Financial Aid. So you want to make sure that you do that and you do it on time. Aside from that, apply to scholarships. I always tell students that you want to look at your high schools, go to your career center, talk to teachers that have been there for a while, and ask them what scholarships have students applied to. There are scholarships that some students would never even know of. I always tell students that when I was in high school, I applied to a scholarship the day it was due, because my counselor was like, hey Diana, like you should apply to this scholarship, no one's applying, and you should just apply, it's only 3 short essays. So I ended up submitting it by the end of the day and I got the scholarship. And I never would have applied to that scholarship had my counselor not told me. And he told me that no one was applying, which was really the only reason why I ended up applying to that scholarship. So I always tell students, you don't lose anything by applying. The only thing you can gain is money to cover your expenses. So you want to make sure that you apply to those scholarships. You can also check out our scholarship page in our financial aid website. You'll get more information on our merit-based scholarships as well as our departmental scholarships, which are based within academic departments, and other scholarships that you can qualify for. So there's a question about what the film program is like. So we do have a really great film and digital media program. So it's really great because it allows students to get a hands-on experience. One of my friends actually majored in film and digital media, and she really enjoyed the program because she was able to actually practice what it was that she wanted to do. So that's one of the really great benefits with the film and digital media program. You can also do internships. So we are 30 minutes away from the Silicon Valley. So there's opportunities for you to do internships in that area. So you could intern for like Facebook or Google, and then you'll do those as an undergraduate, right? So that's really, like I mentioned earlier, how you make yourself competitive for the job market after you graduate. Okay. Yeah, and for UC Santa Cruz, we don't have impacted majors. We only have 2 selective majors, which are computer science and computer engineering. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So I know that there's a few questions about the SAT and the ACT for some of you that are planning on applying in the fall. So UC Santa Cruz is not requiring that students take the ACT or the SAT. That might be different for other UC campuses, but specifically for our campus, that won't be something that we'll be looking at in terms of making an admissions decision. Okay, in terms of housing for transfer students, yes. So as a transfer student, we do guarantee your first year of on-campus housing, and we do actually offer what's called like our transfer housing. So this is actually at Porter College. So you'll be housed with other transfer students, which means that your roommate will be a transfer, your RA will be a transfer, the person across the hall from you will be a transfer. So it's really nice because you get that on-campus experience without being surrounded by freshmen, which a lot of students really enjoy. The other benefits with our transfer housing is that you're actually a 2 to 3 minute walk from our transfer center, which actually has advisors, they have peer mentors, and they offer a variety of workshops throughout the year to support transfer students. So that's one of the really great benefits. So I do encourage students to live on campus if you can, at least your first year. Also because it tends to make it a little bit easier when it comes to navigating off-campus housing when you connect with other students. Because I know that was how I was able to find off-campus housing my last year, is because I had made friends and they were able to pass over their house to us. So that's one of the benefits with living on campus your first year. So there is a question about what if your test scores are better than your transcripts? So your test scores, again, will not be looked at in part as a part of our admissions decision. But if you have test scores, you can, of course, include them. And sometimes those test scores can help meet certain requirements. So I tell students, if you have them, just add them on your application because those might come in handy whether you need to meet a certain requirement. Okay. So we don't verify community service hours and extracurriculars. We do take your word for it. So you want to make sure that you are being honest on your application, and that's how we'll trust you that you're telling us the truth. So there's a question on how did you overcome the struggles that come with being a first-gen college student. So for me, I will admit that it was difficult in the beginning because I was away from home, and I always tell students that my parents were very supportive of me going to college, but they didn't really understand what I was doing, right? So for me, it was definitely a struggle trying to explain to my mom what I was doing, or explain to her like, oh, I pulled an all-nighter because I have to study for an exam. But I think what really helped me overcome that was just connecting with other first-gen students. I think a lot of times it can be very lonely if you're not looking for, like I mentioned, that community. But I think for me, I found that community within, my roommates, being a part of the EOP Bridge program. Joining a center was really what kind of made it for me, because I was able to kind of hear about other students and how it was that they were navigating that whole first gen experience, and like being comfortable asking for help, which a lot of times students struggle with. I know that I struggled with that a lot because I never asked for help when I was in high school. And then I got to school and I realized that I didn't know everything, and that was okay, right? But I had to learn to ask for help if I wanted to stay and I wanted to graduate. So that was definitely one of the most difficult parts for me as a first gen student, was being comfortable to ask for help. And I don't think that would have been possible had I not connected with other first gen students like myself. So I really do encourage students, find your community, find your friends on campus. They're out there. I remember one of my friends, I made a friend just like randomly because she knocked on my door my freshman year asking me if I wanted to go eat with her. And then it ended up being that we were actually from the same town, and we ended up knowing a lot of the same people, but it was uncomfortable for a little bit, but it was definitely worth it because then that person became my friend. So I always tell students it's okay to be uncomfortable for a little bit, and it will be, right? Because this is all something new for a lot of students. But after you feel uncomfortable, you'll realize that it's the biggest opportunity for growth, right? So there's a question about whether I moved away home to attend UC Santa Cruz and whether I was scared. So yes, I did move away home. I did move away from home. I moved about 4 hours. So I'm from the Central Valley, if there's anyone from the Central Valley here. I grew up in the Central Valley, so it's about a 4.5 hour drive from home. And I didn't have a car my first year, so it was definitely a challenge trying to not come home every weekend, because that was what I wanted to do my first quarter. I always wanted to go home. So it was a little scary. And I remember something I always share with students is that when I was packing to move up to Santa Cruz, my mom kept telling me like, why are you packing so much? And then I told her, I'm not going camping, I'm moving up for a year, which is really funny. But again, that's the experience of a first gen student a lot of times. So it was definitely scary, but I think being a part of the EOP Bridge program, having my mentor who I would meet with him every week, so he would check in and see how I was doing, how I was feeling. So it was really nice to be able to share how I was feeling with someone who could understand where I was coming from, right, as a first gen student. So yes, it was scary, but then it made me, after I made friendships, it made me want to come home less. So I always tell students that like I realized that UC Santa Cruz had become my home when I had come home for a holiday, and I was telling my friends, oh, it's time for me to go home. And I meant like Santa Cruz, not home. So that's one of the really great things, that's one of the reasons why I love Santa Cruz. So I have another question from a student that says that they're 19 and they want to attend UC Santa Cruz. Are you too old? No, you're not too old. So we have students across all ranges, ages. So if you are interested in UC Santa Cruz, you can come to our campus. It doesn't matter what age you are. And you'll connect with all types of students. I remember I had a student in my class who he was like 45, but he was like, he was returning to school, and it was great because he provided another perspective. So I encourage students, if you're interested in Santa Cruz, apply to our campus. I have a student who says, how can I transfer to UC with 2 majors? Can I do that? So we admit students by 1 major after you get admitted, and of course, you want to go on our admissions website because we do have screening majors which do require major prep, and then we have non-screening majors which don't require major prep. So you want to make sure that you see which ones you're interested in and whether they do require major prep. Once you arrive on campus, you can speak to your academic advisor. I know that I had friends that were transfer students and they did graduate with 2 majors, but sometimes what that means is that you might have to take an extra year. So instead of finishing in 2 years, you might have to finish in 3. But it's just a matter of talking to your academic advisor, and they can help you navigate and plan for your majors. So for our so there's a question that says you apply as your first choice, then talk to the department of second major after you get there. Okay, I think that was the one I just answered. No, the business econ major is not impacted. Okay. And I think someone had a question about our admissions rate. So our admissions rate for Frosh this year was a 65%, which is pretty good for our UC campus. We are still a selective campus, but I encourage students to apply because it tends to vary. But we really want students to make sure that they talk about everything that they think is important and valuable within their UC application, because that will definitely help build you as an applicant. So please, I've mentioned this already, but I can't reiterate it enough. Make sure that you work on your PIQs, because those are a really great way for you to add value to your application, right? So they can't negatively affect you, they can only help you. So definitely build on your personal insight questions. Okay, so there's a question about the colleges. So our residential colleges, what I recommend to students is definitely read up on kind of like the themes of the residential colleges. There's different ways that students pick their residential college. So some students will pick their college based on location. So like if you're really into working out, you might want to choose like Stevenson and Cowell because that's the closest one to the gym. If you want to be close to a dining hall, maybe you want to choose a college that's close to the dining hall, like 9 or 10 or Rachel Carson. But you can also choose your college based on your theme. So there is a writing course that you take depending on the college that you're affiliated with. So I always tell students that you want to pick a topic that you're interested in. It doesn't have to be with your major because our colleges aren't related to majors, but it's at least a topic that you might be interested in. So for example, when I was a student, I was affiliated with Ucsc College, whose theme is like community and diversity, and it was actually really great because I got to meet students who were majoring in computer science, business. So it was great because for a lot of students, that wasn't a topic that they probably would have taken within their major, right? So it was great in terms of the conversations and the community that students built. So that's one way to select your residential colleges. If you get admitted, you actually get to rank your top 5 out of the 10 colleges. So you actually get to rank 5. And about 80% of our students do get into one of their top 3. Most of our students will actually stay with the college that they're affiliated with because you actually get to graduate with your college. But if for some reason you decide that you want to switch to a different college, you can always submit an appeal with your residential college. So some students will do that because maybe they've connected with a group of students at a different residential college. And that's okay. You just want to talk to your academic advisor about that. See. Okay, perfect. So there's a few questions about the PIQs, and then what should a senior be doing now and things like that. So like I mentioned, for the PIQs, it really is a conversation, right? We really want to hear about you, who you are as a student, what you've done, what is it that you want to do. So I always tell students that the personal insight questions really build on your application. So we don't want to know, we already know, the grades that you've had, the clubs that you're a part of, what have you done within those clubs. The personal insight questions are really an opportunity to kind of build on that, or to talk about things that aren't on your application. So it's an opportunity for you to talk about your life experiences, ambitions, obstacles that you've overcome to get to where you are. Something I tell students is everyone has a different story, a different reason why they do what they do, different obstacles that they've overcome to get to where they are. No student is going to have the same personal insight questions, even if you're from the same area or you're interested in the same major. So you really want to think about those things when writing your personal insight questions. Is what makes you unique. What are things that you want to do? What are your dreams, aspirations? What have you already done to do that? So definitely use your personal insight questions as an opportunity for that. They can only help your application. They're not going to negatively affect you, but it's really just an opportunity for you to add more value to your application. There was a question about merit-based scholarships. So we do offer merit-based scholarships. So those are based on academics and financial need. So you definitely want to go on our financial aid website and get more information so you can see about our merit-based scholarships. And like I mentioned earlier, we do also have departmental scholarships that some students can qualify for. In the UC application, there's actually a survey that you can do. So it'll ask you questions such as like, what is your major, your background? And sometimes, depending on your responses, you can qualify for a scholarship. So you definitely want to make sure that you complete that survey portion to see if you qualify for a scholarship, depending on the campus. Okay. So there's a question about us, if you're a senior and what if you aren't prepared or you haven't done what you need in order to get into a UC. So like I said, the biggest thing is if you meet the requirements for the UC campus, I really do encourage you to apply because you don't lose anything by applying. And if you are really interested in a campus and maybe I have examples of like sometimes there's a student who got a D in English, right? Their sophomore year, but they retook it their junior year and then they say, oh, I'm not going to apply because I have this bad grade and I made it up. If you made it up, that's fine. You can actually talk about any issues with your academics in your application. So if you've retaken the class and you meet the requirements, you should just apply. And if for some reason you don't get in, or maybe you decide to go to community college route, we do offer TAG. TAG is a transfer admission guarantee. So basically we guarantee you a spot on our campus as long as you meet the requirement. So we basically tell you what it is that you need to do and the grades that you need to have, and you know that you have your spot guaranteed as long as you meet those requirements. So I always tell students that this is really great because we're not looking at your high school anymore. We're focusing just on your community college coursework, and you're starting at your community college with a clean slate. So that's definitely one of the benefits with students that go to community college. And then with TAG, you know that you have your spot guaranteed if you meet those requirements. So there is a little question about internships as an undergrad. So I do encourage students to do internships. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, when it comes to finding jobs after you graduate, what employers are looking for is what did you do as a student? Not only your, getting your degree, but whether you did internships, research, did you work with faculty, were you involved on campus? So there's a lot of ways to get internships. I'll share a few of mine. So when I was an undergrad, I was an intern with the Chicano Latino Resource Center on campus. So I actually did a lot of event programming on campus for students. I led workshops. I actually got to participate in a variety of programming off campus because of that internship. I also interned through a program called UCDC, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. It's an internship program that the UC system offers. You basically get to move to Washington, D.C. For a quarter and intern at an office in the area. So when I did UCDC, I actually interned in 2 different offices. So I interned in the Education Trust, where I worked with their higher ed department. And basically what I did is I was looking at different types of programs that universities were doing for HSIs and HBCUs, and that was something that I was really interested in. So when I did UCDC, I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do after I graduated. So one of the things that I was debating between was either going into higher education or working in K through 12. So I also interned with the National Education Association in their Center for Social Justice. So they were doing work on, the school to prison pipeline, how are we educating teachers to support students of color. So it was really nice because I kind of got a nice overview of education and kind of got a sense of what is it that I wanted to do. Because I knew that my passion was in education, but I didn't know what specifically within education I wanted to do. And because of UCDC, I was able to know that I wanted to go into higher ed, which is what I'm doing now. And that's probably not something that I would have been so confident in had I not done UCDC. So I really encourage students to do internships because that's kind of early work experience that you're doing, not only to build your resume, but to know what it is that you want to do after you graduate. Because of that, I also got to participate in a fellowship through like UCDC. I was able to build connections, and I did a fellowship where I got to fly out to Atlanta, and I got to meet other Latinas like myself who were doing really great work helping the community. And again, that's something I would have never known had I not done UCDC. So I always encourage students, definitely do internships. Our Career Center is a really great place for internships because they have a database of all internships that students can do on campus as well as off campus. Some of our majors actually have like an internship component where students actually have to go out and kind of get a sense of like that field. I have a friend who was majoring in human biology because she wanted to go into the medical field, so she actually got to intern at a physical therapist's office as an undergrad, so she can kind of get a sense of what do physical therapists do, what should she be doing now to prepare herself. So the Career Center and of course like our major departments are really great in terms of preparing students with those internship opportunities. Okay. There is a question about tours. So our campus is currently offering virtual tours, so I do encourage students to take advantage of them. It's not the same as actually being on campus, and I wish I could be on campus right now, but you at least get a sense of what it looks like, how it's set up, and you can at least imagine yourself there, and hopefully when the campus reopens you can actually get a chance to visit. Do I have any advice for transfer students? So for transfer students, I really want to encourage you to go to your transfer center so that they can ensure that you have the requirements that you need, or that you're in the process of completing those requirements by the time you apply. If you meet the tag requirements, I encourage you to apply for tags so you can guarantee a spot on our campus if you meet those requirements. Something else that you can do is create a TAP account. So if any of you are community college students, the TAP account is a transfer admissions planner. So you can input all your coursework that you're taking at your community college. And then one of the great things with the TAP planner is that you can transfer that information over to your UC application. So it kind of saves you the work of filling in that information on your UC application. And if you select that you're interested in UC Santa Cruz, it'll actually connect you with an admissions rep like myself. So every California community college has an admissions representative. So it'll connect you with an admissions representative, and then we can help answer your questions if you are interested in tagging our campus, or if you just want to make sure that you're on track to apply to transfer, whether it's in 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, whatever it is that your timeline is. So we do have about 9 minutes left. So if you have any final questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. So that way I can hopefully answer them in the last few minutes that we have here. So there is a question about GPA. So the minimum GPA that students need in order to apply for our campus is a 3.0, but of course we are a selective campus, which means that you want to do more than the minimum. So I do encourage students to do have a 3.5 and above, because that's where 90% of our students that were admitted last year had. And we do go off of your weighted 10th and 11th grade GPA. So that's the GPA that we look at. I know I've had a few questions about undeclared. So coming in as undeclared does not lower your chances of getting admitted to our campus. Every student does come in as a proposed major, and you have until the end of your second year to declare your major. So you have a little bit of wiggle room and flexibility, and you can feel comfortable knowing that if you apply as undeclared, it won't affect your admissions decision. One thing to keep in mind though is that if you do come in as undeclared, you can't switch over to computer science or computer engineering, because those are two of our selective majors. So a few more questions about transfer and transfer housing. So like I mentioned, we do offer transfer housing. As a transfer student, we do guarantee your first year of on-campus housing. So I encourage you to take advantage of that housing guarantee. And we actually offer housing for transfer students, which is at Porter College. So basically you get to live in the dorms, and your roommate will be a transfer, your RA is a transfer, the person across the hall from you is a transfer. So it really allows you to get that on-campus experience without being surrounded by freshmen, which a lot of students really like. And you are in really close proximity to our transfer center, literally like a 2-3 minute walk. So it's really nice because you have that resource at your fingertips. Okay. And for transfer students, I do want to add that we do have screening majors and non-screening majors. So screening majors are majors that require major prep, which means that you have to have those courses completed by the time you come into our campus. So you definitely want to check on our admissions website, because that's where you'll find accurate information about what major prep for your specific major is, if it's needed. So there's a question about my favorite part of being a banana slug. So I would say that it's the alumni. After now being an alumni, and I didn't mention this earlier, but I am currently the chair for the Latinx Alumni Network, the Ucsc, which is an alumni network composed of Latino alumni, Latino alumni. And so it's been really great being a part of that and being able to connect with the alumni, because I am more on like the younger side of an alumni, but hearing from alumni who graduated in the 80s and the 90s and seeing the work that they're doing, knowing that like one of the co-chairs for like the Women's March was a UCSC alum, and actually having the opportunity to meet her when she came to campus when I was a student, as well as like the faculty. I think that we have really amazing faculty who to this day I still keep in contact with, as well as staff members. I still keep in contact with like my mentors of the resource centers. So I think that's definitely something that makes me really proud to be a banana slug, is that like those relationships and those connections don't end after you graduate, and it's only a matter of you really putting in work, like the work to make those connections, and you know that they'll always be there. Even now, I always message my mentors. Sometimes I ask them for help on my resume, my cover letter. If I have an event coming up and I'm nervous and I'm like, oh, do you have any advice for me? I know I can reach out to them, and they're always like a text away. So that's something that I feel very confidently I can say that makes me really proud to be a banana slug. Let's see. Okay, yes, we do offer students, if any of you are interested in math, we do offer a major in mathematics. I believe that is a screening major, so you would have to go on our website to make sure that you have the requirements to apply for that major. So definitely go on our website, contact your representative, whether you are a high school student or you're a community college student, because we are here to support you and we are here as a resource. So definitely take advantage of us, because our information is literally a few clicks away. Also, definitely check out our UCSC admissions page. We are hosting a variety of virtual events. So you'll probably see me at some of the virtual events, but you'll also hear from current students. So I really want to encourage you to check out at UCSC admissions so you can get updated information on what it is that we're doing. You can also email us at admissions@ucsc.edu, or you can actually use our Sammy bot, where there's someone available to answer your questions 24/7. So definitely take advantage of those tools and resources that we have on campus. And then there was a question about study abroad. So we do offer study abroad on our campus. So I do encourage students, hopefully when we are able to travel, you'll be able to study abroad. So we do have a study abroad campus on our office. So if you're interested in studying abroad and you're like, I want to study abroad, but I don't want it to, make me take a 5th year. You can actually talk to our advisors and you can ask them like what programs have students done within your major, and then how have they transferred over those courses, which means that the classes that you take abroad can actually count towards your major or towards a GE. I had a friend who needed to meet a language requirement, so she went to Mexico, and she was able to graduate in 4 years. So that's one of the really great programs, and study abroad is offered year-round. So it's not just during the school year. You can actually go in the summer, which means that you're still on track to graduate. So definitely looking into study abroad. Okay. Okay, perfect. So we have about 3 more minutes. So I just wanted to say thank you again so much for tuning in today for, again, our first Ask a Banana Slug. And also I just want to, for any of you that are, going to be starting your first year, I really want to encourage you to take advantage of these virtual events. I know that this isn't what you planned. I can only imagine being in your shoes, being a first year, first gen student and having to navigate higher ed virtually. But staff members are here to support you. So I really do want to encourage you to, connect with your advisors, participate in welcome virtual events so you can connect with other students. I have no doubt that third year, fourth year students are going to support you, because I know that if I was currently a third or fourth year, I would be here to support you, right? So definitely, reach out. Also, for those of you that are seniors or transfer students who are planning on applying this fall, again, please reach out to us. We are here to support you. We are here as a resource. So definitely take advantage of those virtual events that our office is hosting. And you can always connect with us, and you can find our contact information on our admissions website. So with that, I am gonna sign off. Thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us. I hope I answered most of your questions, but if I didn't, again, please feel free to email me or contact me or anyone within the Office of Admissions, and we are more than happy to answer your questions. So again, thank you, everyone, and have a really great evening, okay?